Hey, everybody, welcome again to Wrestling Travels Lockdown Sessions. We are brought to you by our good friends at Wrestle Merch Central. They are the store for everything pro wrestling in Europe that you would want. So please, if you haven't checked them out, check out Wrestle Merch Central. But today, right now, we're going to check out Big Trouble, Ben Bishop. Ben, sir, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Justin. I appreciate you taking the time, reaching out to me. Love to be on this show. Looked up Wrestle Travel. Love what you guys do. And yeah, really excited to be part of this lockdown series.
I was a little bit hesitant with the name Big Trouble.
Why is that?
I just didn't want any trouble on the old podcast here. I always want everything to go smooth. So
right now I'm a natural baby face. So don't worry about anything. I won't be dropping you with a big boot or inviting you to the big boot party or giving you a double B spine buster. Just one letter better than the double A. One letter better. But yeah, so we can keep it kosher.
That's awesome. The one letter better than the double A. That's fantastic. So we got to start. I want to talk to you about, hence the name of the show, the Lockdown Sessions. But yeah, I always got to begin at the beginning or a little bit earlier than that. Ben, can you tell us how long you've been in the wrestling business?
Yeah, I've been in the wrestling business now for about a year and a half, a little bit of a late bloomer. I've been playing sports my whole life. I've been an athlete. I was a basketball player for a long time. The height helps, being damn near close to 7 feet tall. I played basketball, University of Vermont, Division I. Played a little bit of Australian football here in the States for about 3 years. Kind of like I usually tell Americans, I'll tell them it's kind of like rugby, but it's not. So that's kind of how I describe it. But I've always been a wrestling fan. I've loved wrestling my whole life. I always wanted to be a wrestler. Just so happens basketball paid for school. Pro wrestling, unfortunately, doesn't pay for college, but basketball did. So I stuck with that for as long as I could. As many people know, wrestling's not the easiest thing to get into. You don't really know where to reach out to. You don't know what school to go to. In September 2019, I just went to a random show here in Baltimore. Fortunately, I was just standing in the back. Dwayne Gill came up to me and said, "Hey, you a worker?" And I said, "I got a job. I work." I had no idea what he was talking about. And he's like, "No, man, no. Are you a worker? Are you a wrestler?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Why the hell not?" And so he brings me over to James Ellsworth. James Ellsworth immediately is like, "Give me your phone number. I want to start training you." And the rest is history. Next day, I had my first training session, took my first bump, saw my first stars, was like, wait, do I really want to do this? But, I really wanted to do this. I've always wanted to do this. I'm so happy I'm doing it now. So, a year and a half has gone by. I've been working since actually my first match ever was a year from yesterday. So really awesome. Packed the house. It was great. I told James Ellsworth, always have to be thanking me for the draw, for the house. But no, it was really amazing. And like I said, I'm so happy I finally, just got off my butt and said, I got to do this. This has always been my dream. And, it's so far so good.
Wow, a lot I need to unpack there. First of all, what do you build at? What's your height then?
Yeah, so I am billed at 6'12" and 15% of a metric ton.
Okay, that's fantastic.
It gets people thinking.
It did. I didn't expect. It's like every question I got, you got the hell of an answer for. You're throwing me for a loop.
6 foot. I'll give you a little bit of background on that. 6'12". Kevin Garnett, one of my favorite athletes of all time. He always said to people he's 6'13" because he never wanted to be billed as a 7-footer and be a center. So he always said 6'13". So I'll call myself 6'12".
But you're legit 7 foot.
Legit. All right, now we're gonna shoot.
I'm sorry. Well, you don't give anything where you don't have to. Don't give anything where you don't have to. But you're a big boy.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Okay. And then I got to go back. One of my favorite sports in this entire planet, besides American football and professional wrestling, if people haven't seen it, if you haven't watched the AFL, Aussie Rules Football, you are missing out on what I call, it's just like organized chaos.
Perfect way to describe it. Controlled chaos.
One of the first things I ever saw. I think it was a grand final, and I don't remember who was playing, but a guy went up for the ball, fell, put his arm down, and it just dished right here. And they're taking care of him, but the game goes on.
Game goes on. It's a giant field. We would play, we were kind of like you can call it a glorified men's league, but we were very competitive. And I played out of Baltimore for the Baltimore Dockers. And it's the field we usually would play on would be between about 130 to 150 yards, but they use meters, but same deal. But for them in Australia, it's 180. So the field's enormous. And it's, if I remember correctly, I almost forget now, it's like 12 on 12. I believe if I'm right, or 11 on 11.
You know what? You don't even have to be right or wrong, because I remember I played club rugby in college after my football was over, and people off the pitch, away from the pitch at a party the next day, can you explain rugby? And I'm like, I can't. When I'm on the field, I know what I'm supposed to do, and I have an understanding of the game, but I couldn't tell you the simplest thing about it off the field.
Aussie rules is kind of similar. If you're an athlete, you can be pretty naturally good at Aussie rules. There's a lot of intricacies to it, but we, had a lot of fun, met a lot of great guys. I played the ruck position, which is, basically my biggest job was to just knock the ball into the fast guys' hands and let them take off, and I'll do my job. But it was a great sport to play. Kept me competitive, which I really needed. I've always been somebody that needs a goal and wants to hit a goal, and I've always been a competitive person. So it was awesome to play here in Baltimore. Love the team. Like I said, it wasn't like my first choice of game I ever wanted to play. I love watching it. It's a fun game, and I implore anybody that's ever hasn't seen it. It's very insular to Australia, but please check it out if you get the chance. AFL is awesome, and they have some great. The athletes are incredible. People that play in the AFL, because you got to really. It's a bunch of sports kind of put together. It's almost like volleyball, basketball, lacrosse, soccer, football. It's a lot of things all thrown together. It's a crazy sport, but I'm happy you know what it is. Many people don't. A lot of people have no clue.
Well, I've been over to Australia. I was actually over there during a grand final.
Oh boy,
wasn't able to get into the Melbourne cricket grounds, but I watched it. Everybody had their meat pies out and everything, so it was a great tradition to watch. So I got to ask you, what AFL team is your favorite? Do you have a supporting team?
So I've always been a big fan of the Melbourne Demons since I started playing. I shouldn't say always been a big fan, but I'm a fan of the Melbourne Demons. I hope they do well. It's crazy because unlike sports here where, you kind of can build dynasties, not a lot of AFL teams build dynasties. Every year is different there. And it's crazy. Like Brisbane Lions came in last like 3 years ago. And then last year, all of a sudden, they're like one of the top 3 teams. And so that usually doesn't happen in American sports.
Right.
But yeah, Melbourne, definitely a Melbourne Demons fan. I was a really big fan of their ruck, Max Gawn. And he reminded me the most. Really, I liked him because he reminded me the most of a pro wrestler. He had a big personality, and he would make like a lot of videos. He was very funny. Also, another guy I followed a little bit who was an American, Mason Cox, who played basketball in college and actually went over there and played for Collingwood. So that's another guy, I kind of watched a little bit and tried to emulate and kind of see what they would do. But Melbourne Demons fan, and I get a lot of slack from my Aussie friends about that because I guess the Melbourne fans are pretentious. I guess I don't know. There's a stereotype for every single fan. I guess the Collingwood fans are rednecks. The Melbourne fans are pretentious. So they're like, oh yeah, you like Melbourne. I'm like, man, I have no clue. I just think the Demons a cool mascot. I like Max Gawn. That's about it.
Now I started out because I liked the sport, so I ended up choosing the Western Bulldogs because at that point they hadn't won anything since like 1958. But then I met a really cool family who they're Sydney Swan fans.
Okay.
But they live in Melbourne, and I didn't understand that they, like a franchise here in the USA, moved from Melbourne to Sydney because they used to be the South Melbourne Swans, and there's a lot more history to that. So I've been supporting them because that family really supported me. Every time I went over there, I had a place to stay and everything. So I really got into it. But I'm going to let you in on my super secret thing here that is not going to be secret anymore. I want to know, when you and I both make it big, win the Powerball, whatever it is, I want to start my own. I've always wanted to start my own AFL franchise, and here's where I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be up in Dundee, North Australia, and call it the Dundee Crocodiles. And just, we could have the shittiest team, but I want to just make it on merch, ripping off Crocodile Dundee.
You're gonna have some interesting people coming to those games.
I think,
but they need them up there. It's all in Melbourne, really. There's I think there's 13 of the teams are in Melbourne or around or in
used
Victoria.
To be the Victorian Football League. Football League.
They still have that's like the minor leagues now.
Yeah, and then they've got 2 over in Western Australia, Fremantle, and the Dockers,
and West Coast.
Yeah, you got to help me. Is it the West Coast?
West Coast Eagles. Yeah, West Coast Eagles.
And then they got the Brisbane Lions.
Yep, and Sydney Swans are in New South Wales. Greater Sydney as
Giants,
well. Yep. And then they have the Suns from Gold Coast.
Gold Suns, yeah. And then everything else.
You're probably forgetting, but yeah.
They've got Adelaide Crows, and the
Adelaide Crows, South Australia. Yep.
So, look at us, man. Welcome
I
to the
I haven't talked Australian football in a while.
I haven't either. So people that are watching this, if they are and they're hardcore Aussie Rules fans, they got to remember that Ben and I just probably haven't talked Australian Rules football with anybody in years, and now we just
people are shouting. Any Aussie fans are probably shouting names at us. How they don't remember this?
They got that name wrong. We'll get right. You know what? At least we did it in complete freaking respect for the sport.
Yep, exactly. We definitely respect it.
But if you're an AFL fan, Aussie Rules fan, you're somewhere in Australia, we're gonna go over Big Ben's social medias at the end. So I invite you to follow along and you know what? Teach us some more about if I would have known, I got an AFL ball somewhere in the house here.
I used to have one. And in the States, just so everybody knows, if you want to get involved in any of the teams, they're not. I don't know if they're gonna have a season this year. We'll see. But the USAFL is what I played in. Great league. They invite everybody to play. They just want to grow the sport because it is so insular to Australia. I think it's important that more people know it, and I think it can be popular in the States if people see it more. So it's a cool league. Every major city has a team. Where are you located, Justin? Chicago?
I'm in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin's close enough.
Yeah.
They have Wisconsin. Actually, we won the national championship up in Wisconsin in Racine. And,
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the last year I played. So last time I played was 2018. But we were up in Wisconsin and won that. So that's my Wisconsin.
Fantastic. So yeah, the moral of the story is, if you haven't heard about it, based on our recommendation, please check out an AFL game. There's all kinds of highlights and stuff on that, and I'm sure there's probably somebody's done a YouTube video on explaining Aussie Rules football. But
what you need to look for, everybody, last thing I'll say, if you're a wrestling fan and you want to check out Aussie Rules football, if you look up the word mark in Australian Rules football, you'll see some cool stuff. So the word mark, even though it's bad in wrestling, or depending on your connotation of the word mark, check it out on Aussie Rules football. That's some cool shit.
So okay, so you get approached by Dwayne Gill.
Yep.
Training with James Ellsworth. So usually my next follow-up question is, how did you break in? I'm usually going, hey, who was somebody you watched on television, like really looked up to watching pro wrestling? But I'm going to ask you, did you grow up watching wrestling?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've always been a fan. Always since I was about 8 years old. 1998, I started watching wrestling, and I was a big fan of WCW. That's the first wrestling I watched. I gravitated towards the Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash is my favorite wrestler of all time. Always loved Kevin Nash and any of the big guys. Then I started watching the guys like Kane and Undertaker, Big Show, anyone like that is always Test, rest in peace. But all the guys I always looked towards were always like just the bigger, larger than life type character guys, literally and figuratively. And I've always just kind of wanted to do it, man. I've always just like had that itch, but it's hard, especially you don't really know I didn't know how to get into it. And then kind of just life took over, and I was like, I'll just be a fan. Let's be a fan. And then, luckily that day in September 2019, I just went to that show, and yeah.
No, that's the thing. I'm breaking into the business in 97. So right before you're even watching it. And that was, talk about, I can't even remember there. Obviously there was an internet, but I couldn't just jump on the internet and look at school. So it was a tough break in. But within the last, so you're celebrating a year anniversary, but have you been a year with COVID? Have you had a chance to be on a card with some like legendary? Oh, go ahead.
No, so fortunately, I really started right before, I started working. I was training 6 months before that, but I started working officially right when COVID hit. We were excited to, build off our big show. I wrestled for Ellsworth's promotion here in Maryland is Adrenaline Championship Wrestling. So I was working for ACW, and we were really excited, had a big house, and we're like, hey, we're going to keep this thing moving and good momentum. Obviously, all this stuff happened, but I've been fortunate to work some shows and travel around with Ellsworth. I've gone to Tennessee a bunch. I've been able to work at OVW in Kentucky, so that was really cool. Run by Al Snow now.
Yeah.
Been able to get down to a promotion that Jerry Lawler is very much invested in at USACW. Burt Prentice is the promoter there. Been able to get to a couple places in New Jersey, a couple places in West Virginia, just doing the best. I'm trying to travel everywhere. In a few weeks, I'll be going down to Mississippi and Memphis, working 2 shows in a row there. I've been having to go to Tennessee a bunch just because it's a little bit more open. Maryland has a very strict commission. We won't be running shows until this is damn near over. So I just got to travel as much as possible. And it's been rewarding. And unfortunately, I'm able to do it when a lot of guys might not be able to do it. So I'm very fortunate in that sense. However, it's definitely a bummer, but I try to be an optimist, and I try to, I'm trying to control what I can control and work as much as I can. But also as a big guy, work smart too. And that's one of the major things Ellsworth has been teaching me.
My question there was, in your travels, have you been on some cards with some actual other legit big men like yourself?
As of now, I've been on a few cards with a guy named Wrecking Ball Legursky. Really talented big man. He's about probably like 6'4", 350, I would say. Haven't been on many cards with guys my height yet, unfortunately. I'd love to get on some cards with guys like that so I can really talk to them about,
that's what I'm thinking. That as much as a guy like me could tell you or somebody else, it's probably getting that.
Yeah.
Somewhere sitting down with a Kevin Nash is going to help.
Yeah, no, see, that'd be amazing. Anybody like him, or a big show, or somebody that I can get around to really talk to about working as a big man. Ellsworth's been great. He really gets the business, and for a lot of people, that saw him in his WWE run, and most people that know him from that, how he was portrayed was in the WWE was, as an enhancement talent and a manager and kind of guy everyone always beat up. But what people don't know is that before that, he was on the Indies for 14 years. He started in 2002, and he's still working now. And a lot of guys in WWE are still very friendly with him and really respect him because of his knowledge for the business. So he really knows. He's been helping me a lot and working with promoters with me to like, hey, we got to protect Ben's size. You can't, he's not a guy he's going to work like a big man. He's going to work like the Kanes and the Undertakers and the Kevin Nashes and the guys who are going to be big men. Not exactly the big men coming off the top rope and doing all that kind of stuff, but I'm going to work like a true big man. And he's been great with it. But, hopefully as we move forward in the future and we get over this, I can get on more shows with guys my height, work more guys my height, so I can learn from that.
Yeah, and as you go on too, you're going to find yourself in different places where there are, like I say, quote unquote legends of the sport.
Yeah,
or your taller guys, your bigger guys, your people that have been around. And Ellsworth, I agree with you. He's no slouch, but I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
Sometimes I was just talking about this the other day with Colin Delaney about coaching athletes and stuff. I might tell you the same thing as 10 other guys say exactly the same thing to you, Ben, and somebody spins one word or says something and it just clicks with the younger guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and as a true wrestling, what do I call myself? In the business, historian, lover of the business. It's like, I don't care who taught the kid that. As long as the kid, it doesn't have to be me on everything. There's no ego. Yeah. It's like, now, because it's on me. I didn't say it the way somebody understood it, but that's why I think that as much getting in with another big man to go, okay, hey man, I've been doing this for X
Yeah.
number of years, and this is true, but here's a couple little small things to put in your toolbox.
Yeah, that's the stuff I'm always looking to learn. Even though I'm a little bit older to start, I'm still a student of it. I'm not a guy who's like, I'm going to be 30. I'm 31 years old, and I'm just gonna, I know this, and this. I've been watching it for this. I'm always open to learn. I always want constructive criticism. Just the athlete in me doesn't mind that. I know a lot of people have trouble with constructive criticism and only want to hear, they want to look through everything with rose-colored glasses and be told how great they are. It's awesome to be told you're great. Believe me, I love that. I love being praised every now and then. But it's more important that I learn, because I'm still, and I'll say it, I'm still green. I still got to learn a lot. I'm not polished yet, but I'm working towards it. And I think I'm hitting strides, and I'm making advances every single day and every single match that I have and every training session. However, there's still a lot to learn, and I'm totally okay knowing that and being realistic with myself. So learning from these legends, I've been able to learn from a few guys, not big guys, big guys, but guys like Shane Douglas. I've learned for Ricky Morton, I've been on shows with. Jimmy Hart has told me a few things. Robert Gibson as well. Here and there when I'm on shows with them, the guys like that have been really great to learn from.
That's the thing. When you, obviously that old adage, when you think you know everything, those are the guys that are in trouble. But for you coming right from your athletic career to keep going, that's what keeps people going, is that thirst for knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, I want to learn this, I want to learn that. And the other thing I was talking with Delaney about was, I've seen too many guys, like, I'll still go to seminars.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, I don't want to go. And I don't think that they think they're too good. I think a lot of people are too afraid to go in there and make a mistake and have a legend go, listen, you're doing it all wrong. But I'm going, please, we need to get rid of that mentality, because they are there to help you. You are paying, and go in there and make that mistake and whatever, suck it up and go, you know what? I messed it up, and I don't know that, and I didn't learn that. Now because nobody in this business, well, this will be controversial. I got to figure out how I've taught a lot of people in different areas of not just wrestling and stuff. Yeah. And I remember going, and this wasn't a pro wrestling thing, but I'm going, listen, I've been doing this for so long that I will forget to tell you some things, because my brain just does it automatically and thinks that you should know that. Where a lot of these things that I'm getting on your case right now, it's actually my fault. I never taught you that. And I think that happens with wrestling too. There's all kinds of little nuances and stuff,
exactly,
that you can learn.
And I've heard that actually from William Regal, and he said one time, even before, right around when this pandemic happened and guys had to learn how to work without a crowd, the best wrestler in the world, or top 5 wrestler in the world, depending on, arguably Daniel Bryan, actually reached out and said, what can I work on? So a guy like that, where you're like, you think he has everything. You're like, I don't need it. What does Daniel Bryan have to work on? And Regal was honest with him and said, I'm going to work on, let's work on your pins and stuff like that, to be stronger and more tight and more, that type of stuff. And that's, when a guy like that can still be asking, what can I work on? What do I need to work on? Have I been slacking in something? Then I can look myself in the mirror and be like, you better suck it up and take constructive criticism, because you're nowhere close to his level.
No, 100%. Because I used to kind of think, and none of this would come out loud, but I'd be like, we're all setting up the ring, and now 90% of the people are, hey, I'm going to go out to Burger King instead of doing this seminar. And I'm going, these egotistical guys. And then I realized it's part of ego, but it's probably a lot of these people are like, I'm really, because we've all been there. And I can't say that I've never not been there and go, shit, I don't want to do this because I don't know if I know everything, and I don't want to look like a fool, and I don't want to be called. I've done that. I've been there. But then, it's once you get older, you realize that the old people telling you what to do, and you thought they were stupid, and not knowing that I need to check my ego. And that's if we were able to pass that on to the younger generation, the younger generation would be better. But it's the age old thing. It's been happening for generations. You don't understand it until you go experience and do it. So I always say, go in there. That's the time to make your mistakes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm happy that I got into the business being a little bit more mature, starting at 29 years old, where I, can look myself in the mirror and be like, I can take constructive criticism. I can be told that type of stuff. I'm not going to be, and I'm not saying every single young guy's, like that, but they're, I've seen it, and guys don't want to be told that they're doing something wrong. They want to be praised. They want to, they want to win belts. They want to do this, this, and that. And they don't want to be, told by a veteran or whatever it may be that, hey, you got to work on your lockup. Hey, this looks kind of weak. Your strikes look weak. This looks weak. You got to clean up your psychology. Your ring positioning's poor. They'd rather be told, oh, you're great. You're this, you're that, and that's what they want. And they want it out of wrestling. And that's what they want out of wrestling. And, so be it. And that's awesome. Good for them. They want it to be a weekend thing and be a weekend warrior with it. Great. I don't. I want to make it a career eventually, so I want to learn the nuances of the ring positioning, the psychology, the little things that come along with this business.
Wanting to and the ability to. I've been lucky and blessed enough to have been invited to different training camps, and I'd have younger people talk to me, what do you see? And I'm like, look at your trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right now, watch his feet. I only watched from about the mid-calf down and watch the moves. He's taking less time and effort to get to these positions. And I said, once you have that footwork down, now because right now your brain is thinking of 17 things you did wrong up here that you want to fix, and also how to get your feet working. But once that base can start working for you, where your feet are getting you into that position without you having to think about it, now all kinds of stuff opens up for you. That's the thing that I,
And basketball has definitely helped with that, being a big man in basketball and having to really focus on footwork in the post and that kind of stuff. So that stuff, the footwork, still a lot to learn, but it's definitely something that's come a little bit easier for me in being able in the ring. But you're 100% right. It's within inches, it's not even like feet or meters, it's inches in being in the right spot. And that can throw something off huge or, make something look good or bad. There's not a lot of room for error in between the guys who are kind of here and the guys who are like, up here.
You could probably remember that from your training, because I can. Once this one thing started working and you were able to go, okay, I don't have to consciously think about that. Now it's opening up a whole new world.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to turn this into a pro wrestling class. I want to talk to you about your career. Now, you've been having to travel a lot. What are some of this is going to be like asking you what your favorite kid is. Yeah. And I don't want to offend anybody, but some matchups that you've had that have stuck out in your young career so far.
I've loved working in Tennessee. I love some of those fans. They're kind of like that old school type fan, boo the heel, cheer the face type fans. Ellsworth down in Tennessee. That was a lot of fun. I worked him in a few places, but when we worked in Tennessee, that was one of my favorites. I worked in New Jersey for a new upcoming promotion called Invictus. They're doing a lot of really cool things right now. I worked a guy that was actually two guys, Dennis Morgan and Gio Galvano, two matches I was really happy with. They're both Team 3D guys, so they've been training with Bubba Ray up in Connecticut, Bully Ray up in Connecticut, I should say. So those are three matches I've been really proud of. Two of them being two of my more recent matches. Other matches, really what I've wanted to do is just build off each match. So my first match obviously was one of my favorites. I got to work with Blackout. A lot of the indie guys would remember them, Ruckus and Robbie. Ruckus being an East Coast independent, legend, CZW guy, Ring of Honor guy. I got to work that my very first match, so that'll always stick out. Granted, I wasn't in the ring very long. I kind of got the hot tag and just did the comeback in the pin. but it was, it felt like forever. And then once I got that hot tag, it felt like 30 seconds went by, even though it's probably about like 2.5 minutes. But yeah, I can't say like one match has been like, oh my God, it's been my absolute favorite, but there's been a few, and right now I'm trying to just build off each match and learn a little bit from every single match as we go forward.
Yeah, I'm going to follow that up with another question that you could really hurt people's feelings, but I know nobody means to, because you can't name everybody. But do you have in your young career a couple bucket list matches? Like, hey, before this is all said and done, here's a guy I'd like to get in the ring with, a guy or two.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a ton of guys I would love to work with. And a few guys at the top of their game. It would be amazing. I know a lot of people will probably say it, but I will say it. It would be amazing to work with a guy like Randy Orton. I think Randy's one of the top 5 guys. Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles along those lines as well. When it comes to like big guys currently in the business, Lance Archer is one of my favorite big guys currently working right now. And I mean, the thing with me is I hate it's such a political answer, but I do love I want to work with anybody who really truly gets it, right? Who understands pro wrestling, who wants to tell a story, who's not just in it to get the shit in. And I that's really the kind of people I want to work with. And anybody who's just respectful enough to like hear out any type of ideas, anything like that are the people I really want to work with. And luckily, fortunately, as of now, I've been able to work with a lot of people like that. So there's been really no issues. But moving forward, the guys I listed are really kind of my bucket list items, and hopefully it works out. But yeah, I would, those are kind of the names that really come to the forefront.
I know those are no fun. Those are fun to ask, but not fun to answer. I realize as I ask them as my journalistic career goes on. Now, we're from the United Kingdom. As you know, we bring fans from all over the world to their favorite wrestling events. I got to ask, I know in your young career, because this is the only one I know right now, because it's been 2020, you haven't been able to wrestle internationally yet. But have you got your passport ready to go?
I gotta update it. I want to work internationally. I would love to go to Japan and England are two of the places I would love to go, or the UK, wherever. But those are the top 2 places I would love to go. I think in Japan, I would definitely be looked at as like the holy shit moment. Dude. Yeah. So and that's what I've heard from people. So that would be pretty cool to get that opportunity to go there for a little bit. And work a few shows, and England, of course, as well. Those are really the top 2, but definitely got to get on that passport, and I'll have it.
Yeah, we got to.
It'll be ready once it's all over.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not gonna happen overnight, but yeah, we got to keep in touch and get you over in front of our UK fans, because you know what? No matter what, when you're at pro wrestling and you walk in, there's certain guys that you look at and go, okay, I can't wait to see him. And then anybody over, like when you get to like 6'3", 4, 5, and then you get to your size, that's going to be something that the crowd is just going to be into. I mean, that's fantastic. Last couple questions here, because I want to be very respectful of your time. And I'm already going to ask my question that I'm going to make you answer yes to is, we have to do a part 2 lockdown session in a couple months. And just kind of see where you're at and everything. Absolutely. But what would be some of the greatest advice that you've gotten from just being other people in the business that you would like to pass on to anybody watching?
Greatest advice, and if anybody's watching that wants to get started wrestling or never knew how to get started, my greatest advice is really kind of what we spoke about already. Just shut up and listen is the best advice for anybody that's a young business. I don't care how long you've been watching wrestling. If you've watched it, if you've been watching it since 8 years old, or you just started watching it, or you're only watch WWE, or you're a fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling and you're a fan of MLW or Ring of Honor, and you think you know this and you think you know that, you don't know. If you're just getting into the business, you don't know shit. And it's just I don't care what you say. I thought I knew a bunch until I got into it, and I was like, no, I have no idea. And I've just really shut up and listen is the best advice I can give anybody. Always, and then of course, pay your dues. I was going to shows, and I helped out it before I made my first debut for 6 months while I was training. I was going to every single show that I could, that my trainer would be at. One of my other trainers is also Nick Taylor, goes by Sickened on the independent circuit.
Yeah, okay, I know the name.
Yeah. So, and he was trained by Ruckus. So, but I would go to all the shows, and I would set up, and I wasn't just going to rest on my laurels and be like, hey, I'm you know, I'm in good shape and I'm you know, damn near 7 feet tall and this and that. And I'm going to show face. I'm going to set up the ring. I'm going to sit there through the whole show, tear down the ring, go back and unload the truck after the match. And I wouldn't get home until 3 a.m. and I wouldn't get paid and I wouldn't, nothing. And I'd be traveling 2-3 hours. But I wouldn't be on the show and nothing would happen, you know, but I did it because I'm like, I want to make sure people know I respect wrestling and I'm not just being like, oh no, you know, Ellsworth told me I'm big and maybe I'll get signed one day. And I don't need to do this. I don't need to be the one setting up the ring. I don't need to do the late nights in the cold and I don't need to do all that. Could I have easily done that? Some people have. I've seen it. Yeah. Some people set up the ring once and they think, okay, well, next show, I'm on the next show, you know, and let's go. Oh wait, I'm not coming then. So I went to at least 10 to 15 shows before I even got on my first one. I'm not even thinking that's a lot because I know a lot of guys do a lot more than that. Do it for a full year. I only did it for 6 months before my first show. And, you know, from now on, I still do it whenever I need to do it. Maryland hasn't ran shows. We haven't had to do it as much, but that's the two pieces of advice I'll give to every wrestler or anybody starting out is shut up and listen and be respectful. And it's in this business more than anything, it's respect is really, it's definitely not given. It is earned, and you gotta earn it. And it's gonna take time, no matter how big you are, how in shape. It doesn't matter any type of person. You gotta earn the respect from, you know, your peers as well as the vets.
You're right. You think you know everything when you watch it on TV, and I don't know about you, but that first walking into training camp for that first time, going into my internal monologue was, "Holy shit! I hope this is not on the up and up because I don't feel like getting the shit kicked out of me from these guys." I'm talking Minneapolis, February, 20 below.
Oh, no.
The ring is rock hard. There's one little space heater, and I'm going. And then, did you have that aha moment? Because for me, they were like, go home and watch Nitro and Raw. And I never watched wrestling the same again. Grew up dissecting it, watching it, and now just having one thing under my belt, I was like, wow.
When I took that first bump, and Ellsworth told me, all right, take a bump. And I took it, and I didn't tuck my head. And he goes, well, that's how you don't take a bump. And I saw the stars immediately. Every bump I saw from there on out, I was like, oh my God, I just respect these guys so much more than I did.
You can really you can ring your own bell.
Oh, yeah,
I've done it many times.
Yep. And you know, you learn real quick. You better tuck your head when you bump. But yeah, when I was seeing the first show I was at after my first training session, seeing guys take bumps off ladders, and I'm like, oh my God, forget it. I'm like, whoa, man, I got to think a little bit about this if I want to keep it up. But the next day I was there, so it's okay.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I still see some bumps, and I'm like, holy cow.
No one knows what it's like until you take that bump. I tell everyone that you don't know how it feels until you do it.
That's like that Mike Tyson. Everybody wants to be a tough guy till they get punched in the face. Exactly. I think everybody wants to be a wrestler until you start taking those bumps, and then the ring rash under your
the ropes hurt the most. The ropes are the worst when you first start hitting the ropes.
Rope rash, yeah.
Rope rash. Oh, that's what took the longest to get used to. The bumps took a while, but hitting the ropes is really to get it in that sweet spot of your back. And now I'm okay, but like when you first start and you don't build that callus up on your back to hit the rope,
your steps are off. And then I was on YouTube last night, and I don't like watching botches too much unless they're funny, but everybody was laughing at I forgot who it was, big name in the 80s, but the top rope snapped and he went flying over. Might have been a bulldog match or something, and I was like, to me, I'm like, that's not funny at all, man. Because you put myself in that.
You got to grab those rope and hold on just in case that does happen.
Yeah, so it's crazy. So, final question for you. I always end up the same way. I want to know, and I want for everybody watching, where can they follow you? Now, we're in the UK, so we're big on Twitter. Yeah. But what socials do you have? Do you have merch for sale? How can we support you?
Absolutely. So, socials, just Big Trouble BB. I'm on. It's the same thing on Instagram and Twitter. I'm most active on Instagram and Twitter. I'm on Facebook as well. I'm on YouTube as well. But Instagram and Twitter is the two places you can definitely interact with me the most. I do have merch. Feel free. Anybody that can just DM me. I'm not on a store yet. I haven't done that. I kind of handle all my own merch orders. Have a few cool things. If you want me to send you some stuff, I can definitely send you and show you what I got. I got hats, I got koozies, I got sweatshirts, I got long sleeves, tank tops, a bunch of different designs. I try to keep it, I try to every few months to get a new design. I'm working on a new one right now as well that I think will be pretty cool. It just feel free. I'm really open. I love talking to people about wrestling. That's why I could probably, 45 minutes have gone by and it, feels like 10, right? It feels like I can just talk to anybody about wrestling. I love talking on Twitter, to anybody, Instagram, it doesn't matter. Just feel free to reach out to me. I'm an open book. You can ask me any questions as well.
Awesome. And more importantly, if you are in a town where Big Trouble Ben Bishop is advertised, get yourself a ticket. If you're lucky enough that your town's running,
yep,
and go check out the matches and then talk to you at the merch table.
Yes, please. I love meeting fans. I love talking to fans. People usually like taking pictures with me just because of my height alone. It'll be a keepsake in the future. Believe that.
Fantastic. And like I said, if I wasn't on a time crunch here, now that we've got all the early goings out of the way,
Yeah.
when we do this part 2, now we're going to get into some big stories and probably some big trouble. See what I did there?
There we go. See what you did there. No, you definitely.
I'm getting better at ending the show. So, Mr. Ben Bishop, I can't thank you enough for joining us on Wrestling Travels Lockdown Sessions. We'll look for you out there, and I'll look for part 2 coming up real quick.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Justin. I had a great time. I really appreciate it again.